Hello and welcome to The Lucky Roll, an eclectic channel for eclectic games. And today we're going to do a comparison between Lords of Waterdeep
and Argent, the Consortium.
Now, my name is Sean.
I'm Tony.
And the reason we picked these two games is they're both worker placement games.
Yeah, Euro-style games.
They're fantasy style.
Fantasy, yeah. There's a bit of hidden information. There's a hidden goal element.
And
there's player interaction.
Intrigue, things like that.
Intrigue, a bit of meanness in it.
But the most important reason we picked these two games is because we own them.
Yeah, we just own them and we like playing them, and
it's kind of, you can't do a comparison with a game you don't have access to.
So these are games we like, and we like playing them, and we just decided let's compare.
So, well, we'll bring it down to basics. First impression. I remember when you brought this into us the first time.
Yeah.
It looked fantastic because it's Dungeons and Dragons. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows that. The box is amazing. Like the picture itself is nice, but the box lid was, the
artwork really pops in it.
It is. It's like we're all eyes wide open, thinking, "Oh, what's this?" Whereas Argent.
First impressions looking at the Argent box, it's anime Harry Potter, and that's not a bad thing at all. Anime, really popular art style. And I think Harry Potter.
I think there's a book about it or something. There's something about Harry Potter
books. Yeah.
Some kid lives under a cupboard or something. But they're both kind of nice, interesting themes. One is a very recognized IP.
Yes.
That's got tons of lore. It's been going since 1974.
Yeah, everyone knows Dungeons and Dragons. Really, at this stage, if you're in these games, you know Dungeons and Dragons.
Absolutely. And Argent, in fairness to it, no, we're calling it a Harry Potter clone. It's not. It has its own universe.
It has its own, the world of Indines. It has its own kind of universe that Level 99 games have designed and developed.
And they've 4 or 5 games around it. So, in fairness, we're doing them an injustice by saying it's a Harry Potter thing. But for people who've never heard of 99 games or Indines, that's what it looks like, and that's how it's generally pitched.
The team is like, it's a bit like Harry Potter, yeah. But
if we're looking for someone to play the game, that's how we pitched it. It's like you're Harry Potter in a school of magic.
Yeah, and you might be really into that.
And actually, to be honest, that's the hook for people.
Yeah, fair enough.
But it's interesting because even though they're both worker placement games, there's different goals. For Lords of Waterdeep, it's a simple victory point culmination. You send out people on enough quests, you get enough victory points, you win the game. With Argent...
whereas Lords of Waterdeep is kind of just like a race for points. Argent, you have to figure out your goals to even begin. And you have to be the best in all of them to win. So it's very different.
It's basically what it is it's an election. There's 12 votes to compete for, and different voters want different conditions. So they want somebody of a certain type of follower, they want the person with the most mana, they want the person with the most money, people with
the most supporters, most items.
Things like that. It varies, and every game, because there's so many votes, it changes it up. There's a great variety to it, if you know what I mean. But the victory conditions for this are generally always the same, whereas the victory conditions for that always change up. So we're going to start touching on the theme and the story now. So let's look at Lords of Waterdeep, the theme. Do you think the theme is captured properly in the game?
Well, the basic story in this is that it's kind of a you are the lords. You're not the adventurers like you'd usually think in Dungeons and Dragons. You are kind of the lord behind the scenes, pulling the strings, sending people out on quests. You're collecting the adventurers, putting them out. It's a unique take on the whole thing.
It is. It's like you're like a quartermaster or a captain or something. You're not going out in the quests yourself. You're just getting the resources together for the people, sending them out, and if they win it, grand, you get the victory points. Yeah. It's not what you typically associate with Dungeons and Dragons, because normally you're going out on the adventure. Mm-hmm. You don't send others off. Now, it's an interesting take on it, and I like that take on it. Cool. But it's... Even the Lords of Waterdeep themselves, there's little to no difference with them.
You're right. They all have different objectives, a goal. They're all kind of complete this type of quest.
Yeah, the only difference is the type of quests you complete, with the exception of one, which is buildings. But every game, you're pretty much guaranteed that other players are only going for a certain type of quests, and the reason they're going for those certain type of quests is they get bonus victory points for it. So the basic mechanics are straightforward, and it's a much more straightforward game. Whereas with Argent, it's much more complex. But I think that works thematically.
Yeah.
Even though this is the game with the lore, I think that's the one that works thematically better.
Yeah, the team is kind of oozing out of this game. It really works. I think that the team really comes out true in this game. It's you really feel like a wizard when you're playing this.
You do, and
your spells and
a wizard embroiled in politics because you're chasing votes and you have to do all sorts of crazy things to get the votes.
Mean things even.
Oh, sorry, it can be vicious, but you can also you have different schools of magic. You have some that are sneaky, you have some that are aggressive, you have
defensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very cool.
It is like, ironically, even though I knew more about Dungeons and Dragons, I found Argent was much more correct and better story-wise and thematically, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, oh no, the team comes through the gameplay so much more. Whereas in Lords of Waterdeep, unfortunately, it can just feel like you're just collecting cubes and just cashing them in. And unfortunately, that's kind of lacking in the team element, where in this one, you actually have little miniatures.
Yeah.
Little wizard miniatures. And in Lords of Waterdeep, you're just collecting cubes. So
well, that's it, you see.
The team is...
It's a pity because everything else in Lords of Waterdeep is perfect. You've got the buildings, you've got the art style, you've got the scenarios, things like that. Some of them are interesting.
The board is cool.
The board is beautiful. The board is just kind of a huge thing of a city.
Really nice looking.
But yeah, you've got an orange square and that's your fighter. You got a purple square and that's your wizard, and you got a white square and that's your cleric. Yeah. And it looks more like you're just stacking up on.
It could be anything really. Now that's not to say that you can't actually pimp out your game. In Lords of Waterdeep, there's a lot of ways to actually make your pieces look really cool. Like there's a set you can buy which replaces all those cubes with little tiny meeples. So an orange cube would be in the shape of a fighter, and a black cube would be a rogue.
Yeah, I think, if it's a game you really like, it would nearly be worth it just for that little extra. But
I'd say it really works, yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have it, but...
But the other problem is the factions. There's no real difference between the factions. Like, I played the City Guard one time, I played the Harpers another time, I played the Red Mage.
Sashes.
Yeah, there's no difference apart from the colour.
Yeah, and if you didn't know the background, they'd be identical. They would be identical,
and
really.
That's a missed trick. Whereas with Argent, the different schools of magic are very different. The factions in that one, the green guys.
Yeah, the defensive wizards.
You have the red guys.
The aggressive offensive wizards who like to knock other wizards out.
You have what are they called?
There's purple, which are the fast. They're fast acting.
Are they? I thought those were the green. I thought the green guys were the fast acting ones.
No, green are defense. They can't be knocked out by the
red
you're
right. Sorry, purple are the fast acting ones.
So that's a very unique part of the game, actually, where every single worker little miniature has their own little power. Yeah. So you're a red mage. You have the most red mages, but each little miniature has their own little power when you put them on.
Yep.
And that's very unique.
So like if I have the red mage collective, I get 2 red mages automatically, which will blow another player off part of the board. But I can choose another 3 mages from any other school of the college.
Yeah, you can diversify, which is very cool.
So you can have 2 fast acting, you can have 2 defensive ones, you can have 2 that are kind of like sneaky shadow ones, or if I cast a spell, you do the worker placement.
Combo off spells.
And thematically, it just works brilliantly.
It's really cool.
Because you have there's great variety in terms of combination of powers and what way you do it and what way you play it. And there's also an A side and a B side to the factions.
Yeah, you have a starting spell and you have starting characters, and you can turn them over, and you're different slightly in some way, and it's
brilliant that way because it's the factions, you're more invested in it. So you kind of whereas this, you're just Harpers, but it's really just color or
and I don't think there's any even there's not even any fluff. There's not even any lore on the description. Like, it'd be really cool if it went into like, this is the red sashes. These are the shady assassin thieves or whatever of the Lord of Waterdeep.
Well, there was one moment of silliness where there was a quest here where I was playing the City Guard as a faction, and just whatever, I was doing my own bits and pieces. But someone had a quest where they killed off all the City Guard, and then replaced all the City Guard with their own people. And like we great banter for about 5 minutes. So
That was
like,
pretty cool. All
I
right.
don't recognize my own guards. You know, I'd go walk around. I was like, "Where's Frank? And why is everyone's a freaking new guy?" You know?
Yeah. So you broke out
Yeah.
of the prison. You got the fighters out of that, and you immediately put them to work and on the city guards.
That's it. Like so, the city guard all kind of just had a big blue flu and walked out or something. You know, it just it led to some mirth anyway. You know.
Oh yeah, it came out naturally from the gameplay. You know, so that's really cool.
It was fun, but it was fun because it was absurd. Now it only happened once in all the times we played, but it
was a cool little thing.
There is no difference in the factions though, practically. Whereas with Argent, there is big differences in the faction, and you could easily develop a favorite playstyle or favorite faction. You know.
Yeah, that said, you know, I loved playing the Red Mage last time. It was amazing. Because I just went into it saying, I'm playing mean, because I don't usually do that, but I'm going to go in saying, I'm going to see if I can knock out some of these guys and make a bit of a real good player interaction and see what comes out of it. And it was one of the funnest games I've ever played.
It was great crack. There was 4 of us, and Tony and Darren,
we just had a massive wizard war for the whole game. We were just facing down each other, knocking each other up. He was the green mage, so he was defensive, and I was Raid, the offensive. So we kind of naturally butted heads the whole game.
It was actually fun because myself and Eric felt like we were just kind of rocking in the corner, like, please don't notice.
If we even looked at either one of them, they'd have been totally goners.
It was, but you know, that's another reason I think Argent has it over Lords of Waterdeep is you can mess with people in Lords of Waterdeep, but nowhere near the level you can in Argent.
For sure. I mean, you can't look at somebody and just knock them out with your piece.
One of the things I like and don't like about Waterdeep in playing it with Argent is you can control the board easily enough. Because once you put a token down, that's your spot. So like there's one part here where you're going to get one cleric at a time. The square only produces one, that's it, no one else gets it.
Yeah, it's taken. That's a kind of a classic worker placement gameplay.
Argent, however, you can literally blow the guy out of you just blast him out of the spot. Like it's.
Each room really in Argent, there are multiple different rooms that you can go to, and each room has multiple spots that you can put your guy, and the higher up you are, the more benefit you're going to get.
Yeah, it is, and it's interesting as well because. Like, if you take the purple mages, which are the quick-acting ones, like, you can stock up on the quick-acting ones, but there's no point taking the premier position because a raid mage will just blast you out of it and they'll take it
out. Yeah.
And your man ends up in the infirmary. So being the fastest is not always necessarily the best.
True.
So you might not always go for the plum position.
Yeah, that's an interesting tip even, because if you're using the fast guys, you probably don't want to use them to go into the prime spot because they're weak. I mean, they're vulnerable.
They'll be made sugar of. But if you there's one tile in Argent where there's a vault cards where you get kind of specific treasures. 3 are drawn, and you have a choice between first pick, second pick, third pick. Yeah. So if you want to be greedy, you can put a purple mage into first pick, but he could easily be blasted off it. Or you could be smart and put him into third pick. And if no one else kind of takes it, you're at least guaranteeing yourself.
Very true, yeah. But that's a lot of strategy, which is really cool. It comes through just normally in the game.
So even though you've got a spot, you're not necessarily guaranteed it. Whereas in this, as soon as you got the spot,
you're guaranteed. Yeah, there's no other way about it. You've got the spot. There's nothing to worry about.
But it does make the first player token in this a kind of a big thing to battle over as well, whereas I never really was too pushed about the first player token on that.
You're right. First player is a huge advantage in that.
Yeah.
In this one, you can get it, you can become first player, and you will have first spot, but then you can just get knocked out of the spot, so...
Yeah, it's an interesting mechanic, especially in the latter stages, the spells and that thing. Yes. Where if you learn a very deep offensive spell and you have, say, a square of 9 tiles, if you go for the middle tile, the spell can actually affect the tile above it, below it, to the left and to the right.
Yeah, that legendary spell. Yeah.
And just kill wizards all over the place. So you're making a complete mess of absolutely everything.
There was even a point, because I as the red mage, I was very kind of reactive, and I had to I was more reacting to where ye were placing because I had to make full use of my red mages to knock ye out, and I didn't want to go first because I wanted ye to go first so I could knock ye out.
Well, that's it.
Like, it's the thing. It kind of plays it up in that regard. It's cool.
It is, and like I was playing the black mages, so I could cast a spell and then place a guy. So it was handy for me to kind of go on a kind of a lateral or left of center, left or right type of thing. But whereas it's a great strength of it, it's also kind of a weakness because there's too many things to keep track of.
Yes, especially when you get these marks and that you can see what votes to go for, because that's all hidden information.
Like there's 10 different kind of goal scenarios, and if it's a two-player game, fine, you can kind of see what the other person's going for and guess accordingly. But if there's 3 or 4 people, it's impossible to keep track of. So, I mean, you went in with the red mages, I think, more for a bit of devilment and having
the game
fun.
and playing the other players. And just kind of just for the fun factor,
fun of it rather than kind of any deep-seated strategies. Like I know Sean's going for these things, so I'll screw him up there, you know.
And to be honest with you, I didn't mark the whole game. I didn't see any secret objective, and I just had the most fun I've ever had playing the game.
Well, that's it.
And I made a hunch, getting something. I got 3 points. I got the most gold and the most mana. Just on a hunch, and I got them.
Out of 12 votes, he got 3, which is a clear quarter of it, isn't it? Yeah. And I happened to win the game we were talking about. I happened to win it, but I had 3. But there was 2 kind of weird vote cards that swung in my favor. The second place cards were a bit silly.
Yeah, getting a vote for second place for being second in something. I don't really know that they tend to be quite swingy. Like, it makes the fact that because a vote for being second place is worth the exact same amount for being first, it kind of makes it doesn't even mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, I won that game, but I felt like I didn't really deserve the victory because I got 2 extra votes for just coming second in 2 other factions,
and you were able to beat somebody who got first in that faction. So it doesn't really. I won't say it's a full cop out, but it doesn't seem well earned.
Well, like I didn't like those cards in it. I mean, they change all the time because it's a random. You could have a vote for most mana, but you don't know if it's there. You could have a vote for most money, you don't know if it's there. A vote for a certain amount of supporters, you don't know if it's there. Things like that. Yeah. Lords of Waterdeep, it's there in front of you. You know, there's 4 quests at the top. Yeah. That's what you're aiming for, and you can tell pretty early who's competing for what quest.
Yeah, each player has their own hidden quest objectives, but it's very obvious eventually. Where like if somebody's going for one type, then you'll figure it.
Like if myself and Tony Copper are going for the same quests, I'm going to throw a few intrigue cards or a few force quests at him to stop him getting the victory point cards that I'm after.
Or you can even go first, take the quest that's there, and complete that before me. So
that's it. Like positioning comes in a lot with Lords of Waterdeep, whereas Argent, there's a lot of maneuverability even mid-game. You could be 3rd or 4th player in a row and you could still shake the whole thing up. And the other interesting thing about that is the bell towers.
Yes, when you want to you can just take a bell tower card which will give you a small bonus, and when you've taken all of them, the round ends.
Yeah. In Lords of Waterdeep, the round ends when all players have had their turn.
You're right. So when everybody has placed their worker, it ends.
So you get to exploit all your resources here. In Argent, you can cut people off before they get to exploit their resources.
That's very mean, yeah.
It is, but it's a mean game.
Yeah, and so one example was me and Darren again. I was able to banish one of his mages, which sent him back to his base, which made him be able to use it again. However, the round ended before he got to him. Yeah. So he had a whole mage on his space that he wasn't able to use because somebody took those bell tower cards, and he was down a whole action.
But that's it. It is. It's a very strategic thing because you could just literally take all the bell tower cards and screw everyone else up if you think you're winning, and be horrible that way.
Tactic, yeah.
It's there's a lot of complexity to the game, and
almost to a fault.
To a fault, yeah.
Because you were saying before. I was saying before that when I was first playing this game, really getting into it to win, I was almost getting a headache out of it. Yeah. I was getting a headache. It really made, there's a phrase, brain burning.
Yeah.
I really felt it there,
The first time I played Argent, halfway through it, I could see a headache, I could feel a headache coming, and I just stopped caring about the marks, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to go for things that are cool. Yeah. The second time and the third time I played it, the headache was later in coming because I have a better idea of it. But yeah, it's like a good Guinness. It's an acquired taste at the start, but then once you get a taste for the creamy stuff,
You have to get used to it.
You'll drink nothing but it. Lords of Waterdeep
It's so light.
it is. It's Coors Light. It's refreshing. You try it the first time. It's
That's
lovely.
not to say it's shallow.
No.
It's a really nice game. There's a lot. It's so streamlined, so easy to play.
It is. Like if I had a long day's work, and I felt like playing a worker's placement game, I'd go for Lords of
It's
Waterdeep.
almost relaxing to play.
It is. It's fun, relaxing.
You have a good fun time out of it.
If you have a Sunday and you're in the mood for something kind of complex, Argent.
This one will challenge your brain, challenge your mind.
It's also like you could play this one easily with other people. That one,
You need gamers. You need a group of gamers that are up for it. This one you can play with your family. It's so easy to play.
like this would be a good Christmas game, whereas that one would be.
Oh yeah, if coming up to Christmas season, guys, I would definitely buy this over this if we were going to have a Christmas family game.
So, the next thing we should look at is say board size, table management, and say setup time. So for Lords of Waterdeep, it's
Very easy.
it's straightforward.
You have your board, a player mat, some cards and meeples, and you're good to go.
And that's it. And with the exception of the little square cubes, everything else looks gorgeous. The board itself is a beautiful looking thing. It's nice, big, very clear. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in the other side corner of it. You can tell what's happening.
Yeah, and even the color of the cubes, they're just cubes, but you can really tell them apart.
It is.
You definitely know the color they are in.
It's perfect in terms of streamlined brilliantly.
Yeah.
Argent is
It's a bit of a monster on the table.
yeah.
It takes up a lot of space.
And because there's so many things to keep track of, you get a headache trying to.
Just even looking around, like, for instance, in that other game,
Yeah.
I just totally ignored a portion, like the vault.
Yeah.
And some of the supporters, I just took one glance. I was like, no, really, I'm fine. And I just ignored it for a few rounds. And I just,
Well, that's it. Like,
I had to, otherwise.
every vault or every tile on that has at least 3 functions, and 3 differing functions. Whereas Space and Lords of Waterdeep has 1 function, and that's it. There's so much to keep track of there, whereas everything here is spot on, straight. I know what it does. It's easier to plan. Whereas, and it's not just the tiles you're trying to keep an eye on there. You have to keep an eye on the supporters. You have to keep an eye on the vault cards. You have to keep an eye on the spells that are coming up. You have to keep an eye on the tableau at the top.
Yeah, and you have to keep on, and then you'll be looking at the other players' boards as well, and you're like,
And you're having to remember, like when you put a mark on a vote or one of the secret votes, you look at the card.
Remember what that is.
So you can kind of like, oh yeah, that's what that guy wants, that's what that vote wants, put it back. You'll end up at least 3 or 4 times more of that game, picking up the same card, thinking, oh yeah, that's what he wants again, and then trying to change the whole thing back.
Yeah.
so the board is not messy, but it takes up a lot. You have your board for tracking.
Yeah.
You have your board you have your set of cards for the bell towers. You have your board with the rooms the main board with our little tiles.
Yeah.
You have the vault cards, items. You have the spells.
You have your meeples.
Supporters.
You have your mana. You have your money.
You have mana, money. You have your miniatures, your meeples.
It's like it's
Takes up a lot of space.
it's just a consequence of how complex the game is, but there's a lot of bits in it. It's a consequence of how streamlined the game is and how, in fairness, how well designed it is.
Yeah.
It's straight to the point.
It's
So in terms of setup and board management, table management, this one I think wins hands down
tops, yeah.
because it's just straightforward, easy, and simple. Whereas that thing is a nightmare. Well, like I mean, like it's the same thing. Like if you're squinting at the kind of the corner tile table to say, what is
You
that
have
again?
to stand up and like lean over and like, what is that?
Yeah.
Whereas,
Oh, I'm getting a headache just remembering it now already. Like it's a nightmare to keep track of that
to
stuff.
be fair, in Lords of Waterdeep, there's also the cards which are on.
very one side, the top of the table.
Yeah.
And if you're down at the bottom, you have to be kind of stretching as well. But
Oh, well,
that's
yeah.
a small point.
It is, but it's a bigger board.
Yeah,
It's an actual proper bigger board. Those are just tiles.
that's true. Yeah, yeah.
You know, so it's
So I think that could bring us into speaking of tiles. Lords of Waterdeep has tiles as well. buildings.
Yes, the buildings actually are a good scenario in this because there's finite spaces in Lords of Waterdeep. Like, say, for example, the cleric space.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you got that, only one cleric person in the board gets it that round. Buildings change all that up. You can get a building like, say, I've just discovered a cathedral, and whoever goes there gets 3 clerics.
For some reasons, for some example. Yeah.
And the person who owns that building gets a cut, gets a cleric or gets some money.
If somebody visits, the owner can get a benefit. And I love that. That's my favourite part about Lords of Waterdeep.
The board changes dramatically depending on the buildings that are put out, and that is actually an aspect of brilliance to this.
Yeah, it can change game to game, depending on the buildings come out. It can be a very different game.
So the next question we should ask really is replayability and value for money. I think they kind of both tie into the same anyway.
That's a very good question. You were talking about the different tiles and everything. In Argent, we haven't even played with some of the room tiles in this game. So,
like, the university makeup changes all the time, you know. So it's a different university, different kind of faction thing to go through. So
and you can be different. You can be a different wizard. You can be a green wizard, red wizard.
Whereas the only variety in this is the buildings.
Yeah, and to be fair, there's enough buildings in the base game where you wouldn't go through all of them first playthrough.
But you will exhaust this one a lot sooner than that.
I think so. I think this has a lot more replayability. But you'll probably play this much less frequently as well.
Very true.
Because it is just the waste, the depth in the game. You'll get people around less often than that.
That's it. Like, if you want a mental challenge, you'll go for that one. But if you want to unwind, you'll go for this one.
This is a game you could bring to every game night.
Yeah.
And people will play. This one you have to kind of organize almost because you have to get the players.
It is, but it can be a much more rewarding experience for that as well. It depends on the humor you're into, but and like, these are just the base games they're covering. You know, both have gotten an expansion set as well. Now, in particular, the Lords of Waterdeep expansion has changed it up because
Scoundrels of Skullport.
The plan is, as soon as we get the expansion for Argent, to kind of do another comparative.
Yeah, there's an expansion in the box that came with the Kickstarter, which is a little deck of cards.
But there's another kind of big box expansion as well, I think.
Okay, yeah.
But down the line, but we like to play the games to exhaustion first before we throw in the expansions, just to maximize it. But I think that's more value for money. And
well, we didn't even mention the price. This was €60 on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And delivered and everything. That was 40 on Amazon delivered. So,
well, you can kind of see it with the components a little bit as well, because like, the box here is beautiful, but it's flimsy. That is solid.
This is a very solid box. Like, it's very nicely produced, super bulky and solid.
I mean, if my wife was going to throw a game at me, if she threw this at me, it would kind of break off me. If she threw that at me, it would knock me out. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Definitely, it's surprising when Eric said, €60, it's almost surprisingly not a bad value for money.
Yeah, actually, given the amount in it, because there's not a single component in that I can fault. The miniatures,
although they kind of bend a little.
Well, yeah, but
that's no fault of the design.
It isn't really, because that's just kind of,
it's just miniatures.
It's just miniatures and the thing with the plastic. But no, I mean, for what you get, that is top-notch quality every step of the way. This cheaps out one or two things, but for what you are paying for, you are getting a very good deal, a very good game.
You're talking about the cubes.
The cubes.
Yeah, and to be fair...
And the box lid.
The box lid and the insert. It's well-intentioned, but not the greatest design.
But yeah, I would say in terms of value for money, Argent wins out, but it's not a fair comparison because they're both games for a completely different mood set, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I would probably play Lords of Waterdeep than Argent.
Yeah.
And I would play this less, but I would get it's more depth to it.
Yeah, it basically boils down to your humor. If you want to unwind,
it's up to yourself.
You want to unwind Lords of Waterdeep. If you want to give yourself a headache, Argent. So, you can only walk away with one.
Yeah. Lords of Waterdeep is one of my favorite games, actually. It's in my collection, and I don't think it will ever be leaving my collection. I like it that much. That said, Argent is a brilliant brilliantly. There's a brilliant amount of depth in the game, and as a gamer, I like discovering a lot in the games. There's a lot to explore. There's a lot we haven't even seen yet in the game. I love that about Argent too, and I think I'd keep Argent.
To be honest, I'd be the actual opposite. I find that I get a lot more play out of Lords of Waterdeep because it's a more accessible game, and it's a game that's a lot easier to unwind with, to relax with.
Yes.
Like it even says in the box in Argent that it's high intensity.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't get me wrong. It's great in that sense if that's what you want, but most of the time when I'm gaming, I want to relax.
Yeah.
And the mental challenge, now and again, I need to scratch that itch. And yeah, definitely I'll be chasing Argent. But if I was only going to walk away with one, I'd walk away with Lords of Waterdeep because I just know I get a lot more out of it. It's just more relaxing, more enjoyable. And I know it's a more simplified version, but I just know that I prefer this one. If you know what I mean. Yeah. I like Argent, but this is
it's so easy to play. You can play it with anyone, any people, anyone you want really. Whereas this one, you need kind of a gamer group and dedicate time to it.
Well, that's the other thing. You would both have expansions. You would exhaust this one first before you'd exhaust Argent, and that's the amount of depth on it. If you know what I mean. Like we'd be chasing up this expansion sooner than we would the one for Argent because the buildings are really the only kind of factor you can exhaust in this, whereas in Argent, in Argent there's tons of it. So to sum up, basically, if we had to choose, I'm choosing Waterdeep.
And I'm choosing Argent, even though I love Waterdeep.
But that's fine, because that means I'll probably get to keep Waterdeep.
No, you won't, Sean.
I will, because possession's 9/10 of the law, and you already admitted that you're going to keep Argent. So. Anyway, before we get into legal quandaries, just want to say thanks very much for watching. My name is Sean.
I'm Tony.
From The Lucky Roll. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. And also, if you have any comments to make, please do feel free. If there's stuff we left out, questions you want us to ask, or even other comparisons you'd like us to make in the future, please do throw it down in the comments below, and we'll make every effort to answer them personally. So, until next time, good luck, and God bless.
See ya.